Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Baking with Bob Keto Edition. So what's in store today? Let's see if I can get the thumbnail on my hand. We have chocolate cake, chocolate fudge cake in fact. Now this recipe is one that I have used from another online website because the first time I made this from there I had been addicted. Not only that, the rest of the family that aren't keto also really enjoyed it. So I want to give a big shout out to drpopper.com. That's Dr. DRPOPR.com for their chocolate fudge recipe. Again, it has been adapted slightly, again for my taste or for yours. You can mix up flavourings, etc. But the biggest thing I love about this is the entire cake is 16 grams of carb. One slice is 1 gram of carb. Yes, it might not be the biggest slice in the world when you're turning it into 16 slices, but the good thing about it is you can portion your own amount knowing how many carbs are in the whole thing. So what will we need today? I'm going to leave a list of absolutely all the ingredients we need in the description below. Saves us a lot of time rather than me reading it all out. But on that note, if you look in the description below and see all of the different ingredients, I'm going to give you some tips. So my first tip is, if you don't have any coconut flour, pop your desiccated coconut into a NUTRiBULLET or a blender and blend it up until it's a nice fine powder. Then you've got your coconut powder. Same with your ground almonds. If you want a really fine ground almond, like an almond flour, then get your ground almonds, put them in the blender and blend them up. Same with the erythritol sweetener. If you've only got granulated and not powdered, again, blitz it. It's the best way to do it. In this recipe, it calls for coconut oil. Now, I've completely ran out of coconut oil. As you may know, with being keto, we use quite a lot of coconut oil. So coconut oil in this recipe can be replaced for olive oil. Avocado oil is a really good one. You could use melted butter if you needed to, because melted butter and coconut oil are on par with each other in my eyes. So yes, you could use that. And I think that's about everything in regards to that. What else will you need? So you will need one of two. You will either need an 8-inch square tin, lined at the bottom and greased around the outside. If you haven't got a square tin like me, you up the size by 1 inch, so I've got a 9-inch round. And as you can see, my parchment paper's in and I've greased the edge already with lots of lovely butter. So, 2 stages. First stage, obviously, I want you to weigh out all your ingredients, get everything ready. So the actual first stage of baking is I want you to get all of your dry ingredients all into one bowl, and I want you to give it a really good mix up so everything's nicely incorporated. Now I'm going to do this on the big camera because I've got the close-up camera set up for my food mixer. Now you can see I'm using a big KitchenAid style food mixer. You don't need to. You can use the handheld one. There is a link in the description for a recommended one, and I'll recommend one of these for you as well. It's not the most expensive one out there, but it's done me well for the past 10 years. Not only that, anything that you buy in the links in the description below will actually help this channel massively. Only buy a slight amount and it won't cost you a penny. It will just come through to me as the affiliate link, and you've helped support the channel, which really does make a big difference. So anyway, back to the recipe. I have now mixed all of the dry ingredients into one. So what's next? Next, I want you to pop all of your wet ingredients into another mixing bowl, which is your egg, your vanilla, your oil and your water. And then I want you to whisk this all up until it's nice combined, all of the wet only. I will fast forward through the mix, but this is just the wet ingredients. Okay, so once all that wet ingredients is combined, I want you to slowly start adding the dry mixture. So I'm going to put about a third of it in, and then we're going to whisk again. see that's added. I'm now going to continue, whilst it's still mixing, to continue to add the rest slowly until it's all nice and combined in. Okay, so once you've mixed that all together, we're going to grab our lined tin and we're going to pour this mixture in, this very runny mixture, into the tin. And I want you to scrape every last little bit out of the bowl, because every last little bit is needed. And then this is going to go into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes, or until your toothpick comes out clean, on 175 or 350. I'll put the gas mark below. Obviously if it's fan assisted, you want to turn that down to 160. Middle shelf, and away we go. And I'll be back to you in 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, so while that's in the oven, I just wanted to talk to you quickly about what your next steps can be. So you can have two options. You can have the cake that's in the oven. Obviously once it comes out, then you can decorate it with the chocolate topping, the fudge topping we're going to do in a moment. Or, if you're a bit like me and you want it to look a bit more presentable, or a cake for an occasion, or well, basically just to make it look more like a double stacked cake, what you can do is repeat the first process. So make another mixture, so when that one comes out and gets popped on the cooling rack, you can pop the other one straight back in the oven, and then you can move on to your fudge. Just remember, obviously, if you're making two cakes and you're double stacking, each slice will double the amount of carbs that you're consuming. So just keep that in mind. I am going to do another cake. I do want mine to be double stacked because I'm taking mine to an afternoon tea, so I want mine to be a bit better. But like I say, if it's just for a quick dessert, you just use the single layer and then cream the top. So I'm going to whip up another batch. That's still in the oven, and I'll be back to you when they're both out, so be right back. Okay, so once your cake is out of the oven and you're letting it cool, you can start the next stage, which is the frosting stage. Really, really easy. What I want you to do is I want you to grab your butter and I want you to melt it in the microwave. Once you've melted it in your microwave, I want you to then add your sugar-free dark chocolate and leave it. Let the chocolate melt into the butter. You can stir it occasionally if you want to, but just leave it to one side for 5 minutes and it should all incorporate together. Once that's done, I'll come back to you and I'll show you my results. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave and I'll be right back. Okay, so my butter is out the microwave. I've added my chocolate. I've not done anything to it, but as you can see, that butter is melting the chocolate down already. Once that chocolate has completely melted into the butter, we're going to add our sweetener, and we'll also add our vanilla, sugar-free vanilla, and then we'll mix that together, and then it goes in the fridge until it starts to firm up. So you can see that chocolate's nearly gone already. It's becoming nice and thick. Okay, so into that we're going to want to add 3 tablespoons of our sweetener. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then give that a good stir in. And then our vanilla. In that goes. And then I want you to give this a good stir in again. But there we go, that's all melted. So now, that chocolate mix wants to go into the refrigerator until it starts to firm up. Once it starts to firm up, we'll get our hand mixer and whisk that up. So when we're at that stage, I'll be back. Okay, so welcome back. So I have let my sponges cool down to room temperature. Look at my hair, such a mess. I have also allowed my chocolate in the fridge, or chocolate and butter mixture in the fridge to set. Well, it's just before set actually, it's just under. You can see on the close-up camera here that it does look quite solid, but the inside is still a little bit not quite set yet. So the next stage is you literally just want to get a whisk and you want to whip up this chocolate mixture so it's nice and fluffy. Makes it a lot easier to spread and it tastes delicious. So let's get whisking that in. Wow, I just got myself covered in chocolate. New jumper on today, well, clean jumper on today, and now it's chocolatified. Well, so as you can see, I've just literally run that whisk quickly through that chocolate mixture, and it's now become a much fluffier and easier to spread. Next, we're going to decorate the cake. So like I said before, if you've just done a one tier, that's fine. You can, once it's cooled, you can put this topping on the top, as thick as you like. Leave it again in the fridge to set, cut into 16 slices, 1 gram of carb per slice. But if you're like me, and you're going to a tea party, and you would like to take an actual cake that you can eat, I am doubling up. So I'm going to do mine with 2 carbs per slice. But first of all, what we want to do is we just want to put a bit of this chocolate mixture in the middle of my sponges. Yours is going on the top, if it's single, remember, and mine is going into the middle of my cake. Now, as you can see, I have got one of these spinning cake boards, tables, whatever you want to call it. There is a link in the description, and there's also a link in bakingwithbob.co.uk if you want to get one of these. It does come part of a set, but I find it amazing for decorating cake, because you can hold the knife still and spin the cake instead, which also gives you a nice flat, or you can do different kind of patterns and things, all just because you're moving the cake rather than just the spatula. Okay, so I think that's a nice thin layer in the middle. And then I'm going to put on my other layer of cake. And I'm going to be really careful because the cake is quite delicate. On it goes. Now, normally I would put the bottom of my cake on the top because that makes it much flatter, but because I'm not icing this cake, it's just going to have this fudge frosting on it. It doesn't really matter. So, another tip for you as well is if you're going to try and make a pattern, or you don't want your mixture to stick to your spatula, bowl of hot water or mug of hot water to dip in and to keep cleaning it off. I'm making a messy looking cake, so I'm not so fussed, so dollop it on. And then push to the edges, spin it around, and we should start to cover the whole thing in this lovely chocolate fudge. There we go. So, like I say, you can decorate this however you like. You can have it flat with chocolate. You can do peaks by pushing the spatula flat and pulling up, and it will give your cake peaks and a more of a three-dimensional look. My number one piece of advice for that is if you're going to do peaks, start in the middle and work your way outwards. Otherwise, you will, if you try to go back over yourself, you'll end up squashing the peaks that you've made. So that's another way you can decorate your cake. So, that is it. That is today's recipe. That is your keto chocolate fudge cake. If you enjoy this recipe, please try out the brownie recipe, which we've made in the past, which has been quite popular. That's a lovely recipe to try. What else have I got to say about this cake? Scrummy scrum, scrum scrum. If you want to get your 16 slices done correctly, I want you to cut it in half, then half again, then half those halves, and then half those halves, and you will end up with 16 slices. Bear in mind, if you have a bigger slice, it's gonna be more carbs in your total. So that is it. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to press subscribe and the bell icon. If you would like to make any recommendations, or you've had a go and you want to show me your images, please leave them in the social medias that you can see down below. And on that note, that is it for another week with Baking with Bob Keto Edition, and I will see you next time.